This is Marco Reus.
This is Shinji Kagawa.
This is Nuri Shahin.
Hello, this is Jadon Sancho.
And you're listening to the Yellowwallpod podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 320 of the Yellowwallpod. I'm your host, Stefan Butzko, and today we will talk about Borussia Dortmund winning the battle of the Borussias and moving into second place in the Bundesliga. And we will preview the upcoming Champions League second leg in the round of 16 against PSG. And for that, we also have another special interview lined up with Ed from PSG Talk. You've already heard from him. But before we go to him and this little interview, I am very pleased to announce the one and only Konstantin Eckner from Spielverlagerung.com. Hello, Konstantin. How are you doing?
What's up, Stefan?
Well, not much, but we have a sponsor for this episode. This episode is sponsored by Vedran Dedic from Azalea City Schwarzgelben, who is from Mobile, Alabama, and you can follow him at Vedran Dedic on Twitter. So thank you very much to basically fund the 5 kilo Nutella panic buy, which will come with the coronavirus.
Shout out to Vedran. He's making Stefan fat.
Konstantin, are you disappointed, gutted that Dortmund will play in front of empty stands in the Champions League now?
Yes. I guess I have to be disappointed. On the other hand, I'm going to Leipzig-Tottenham. We are recording on a Monday. I'm going tomorrow to the match. Might be the last match in the crowded stadium for a while. So at least I'm part of history. And that's what it's all about, right? So yeah, I guess it's not that great to play a match behind closed doors. However, usually, especially German teams, not named Bayern, on doing that well, playing away games in the Champions League, of course, specifically against like the likes of PSG and Spanish teams and so on. So I guess it might be an advantage that there are no PSG fans and that basically it's not it's an away match because Dortmund has to travel to Paris. Still different kind of animal than when you're playing against team and the crowd. Even if the crowd is not that behind their own team, as it's the case in Paris right now, still might be a little bit of an advantage. Also on TV, we get all the talking through the microphones. So, you know, when Hummels is screaming at, I don't know, Jadon Sancho to track back, we will hear it live on television. And when Paris players insult each other in 3 different languages, we got it. You know, it's great when Thomas Tuchel will use his French language skills to, I don't know, tell his players to switch from something to something else or do something differently, or maybe don't screw up so often. Then we will get it live on television. So,
well, it's a big advantage for Thomas Tuchel, obviously, because he likes to tell the tale how Dortmund lost in the Europa League. I think it was a quarterfinal against Liverpool at the Anfield Road, and only because he made a substitution and the formation change, and half the team didn't hear it because it was so loud. That obviously won't happen. Now, the question is, how do I segue back to the Gladbach game, as everyone knows and hosts the podcast?
I don't know.
Podcast hosting 101 is start with the topic you want to start with and not the other one.
That's why I was a little bit confused. You started with Paris. I was like, all right, we do that thing backwards, but it's Stefan's decision. And
yeah, I was on topic because the prospect of 5 kilos of Nutella overwhelmed my brain, to be honest.
Yeah, you also 5 kilos of Nutella. You had your inner Thomas Tuchel talking to you and basically insulting you that you become fat.
Well, I don't know about you Konstantin, but I do not have an inner Thomas Tuchel. So
you have one, you just deny it.
Speak for yourself. I'm also allergic to peanuts, so that wouldn't work anyway, because this guy eats a lot of nuts when he's happy, and I would
He's
never.
nuts.
Anyway, as everyone can hear, it's already very late for Konstantin, so I apologize for all
It's
the great
not
puns.
10 evening. It's all right. but maybe I had a half bottle of wine at the reception dinner an hour ago. Maybe not. There are rumors out there. I won't confirm them.
All right, so Dortmund won on the road twice in a row now. In Gladbach, and move into second place in the Bundesliga. It's too bad the entire league will be closed down now, basically. But Konstantin, if I look at the expected goals, I see a resounding win for Gladbach. I think Dortmund were maybe the better team overall in the second half, but I also would make the claim that Dortmund were a bit lucky to win this game. What is your analysis of what was a pretty cagey affair?
Yeah, it wasn't the first time that this season that Gladbach played Dortmund and happened to be a little bit unlucky at the end. So I don't know. It was not as exciting of a match as I guess a lot of people wished it to be. It was. I mean, there is a lot of action between the penalty areas, not so much within the penalty areas, after all. So, I guess for, just, spectators, wanting to have an exciting entertainment match, it wasn't really, I guess, their cup of tea, maybe.
I don't know about you, but I thought it was riveting. I was, really, sitting on the edge of my seat the entire time. Maybe it was just down to the 1-goal lead the entire time, basically, but I thought it was a very interesting game.
I don't know what you do at home. But that's your thing, if you're riveting, sitting on your chair, that's all right. I mean, all more power to you.
Thank you.
But back to the match. Yeah, I was also, what I didn't like looking at it from a more neutral position for once, is that basically both teams played basically the same formation, mirrored each other. So a lot of man marking and one-on-one situations, which can be fun at times, when there are two teams which are almost equally strong, as was the case with these two teams. It can be a bit daunting at times. I mean, don't get me wrong. There were also exciting phases. Dortmund couldn't get much going in the first half, other than some counter-pressing situations and then transition attacks, which tells you something, right? I mean, there was like a 3-4-3 against a 3-4-3. So Dortmund, if Gladbach remained compact in defense and so on, then Dortmund couldn't get much going. But if there was some kind of chaos with counter-pressing and a little bit more instability in Gladbach's defense formation, then there were a couple of openings for Dortmund, but overall it wasn't really, I don't know, it wasn't exciting. It was more like, as you said, riveting. It was of course, cutting edge situation to some extent.
Sure.
Until the end. Second half, yeah, I guess. Second half was better, of course. I mean, Lucien Favre, the coaching god he is, made the one thing he had to do: bring on Jadon Sancho, which is almost unfair to opponents that you have Jadon Sancho on the bench. On the bank. You also have it on the bank, all right? I mean, at least right now. You've got the contract on the bank.
Can you please focus?
No, I can't. I can. Back to topic.
All right, I'll take over.
No! Who are you? You're insulting.
Well, no, but honestly, you're right in the sense that not much really happened on either side. I think the first chance that Dortmund really had was actually the goal. when Emre Can pressured Lars Stindl, who then passed it straight to Haaland, which is not a good idea. And Torgan Hazard nearly screwed it up with his first touch, but then made the best out of it. Made a little dummy, faked out, I think, 3 defenders and then curled it into the far corner past Jan Sommer, which was a really beautiful goal. After he really messed it up almost. And I think another key event in this game was the injury of Deniz Zakaria. I don't know how you see it, but in my view, he is one of the, or the centerpiece of Gladbach's not only defense, but also build-up play. He's in the center of their back three. And that meant Marco Rose brought on Toni Janschke, put him in the right back position of his back line. And then Matthias Ginter, of all people, went into the center. And so that was, I think a big disadvantage for Gladbach, not a big disadvantage, but I thought it was a drop off in their capabilities. What I also found interesting after the game is that Mats Hummels said that right now he is basically not trying to play any spectacular balls. And what has improved drastically over the last games or so is that Dortmund play with far more caution and do a way better job of protecting the ball. Is this something you also observed, or do you disagree with Mats Hummels there in terms of the risk-averse play?
Yeah, it looks much more cautious. You got 2 more defensive-minded center midfielders. Julian Brandt played on the right side, where you could really see that right now in center midfield he's much better and can contribute much more to Dortmund's game. So that's why, he as a right winger wasn't really working. So yeah, overall, after the Leverkusen match, Dortmund once again changed their approach a little bit. It's more cautious, risk averse to some extent, which makes for less exciting matches, but on the other end, quite successful performances so far. So I guess, if you're winning, you're right, at least to some extent, when it comes to coaching. You're not always right, but often enough. And right now, Lucien Favre isn't really under pressure, and so I guess, yeah, why not? We will see. We will see in other matches if Dortmund is behind and has to take more risks. Then we will see how the team can do against deep sitting teams, 1 or 2 goals behind. That's like a complete different dynamic then. Right now we have these open matches, or even in the lead. It's of course easier to play a little bit more cautious and don't have these hero balls from Mats Hummels or long dribbles from Don Axel Zagadou or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's actually quite visible. And I think Dortmund are maybe a little bit over-reliant on Hakimi and Guerrero to create something that didn't go quite off against Gladbach. I think they were also pretty conservative, especially Hakimi in the first half. Hardly went forward. And
well, when he went forward, then he was caught on the wrong foot by Ben Zabini.
Yeah. I think
couple of situations where he got basically overtaken by the Gladbach left back.
Yeah, and I will say this, I thought Julian Brandt once again had a very poor game for his own standards. I think his defensive intensity needs to get better and better quickly. I don't see him in this form play against PSG, if I'm entirely honest. And also just a lot of really unnecessary turnovers that he produced. So yeah, that happened. And obviously there was a penalty shot for Gladbach. Zagadou played the ball back to Bürki, and then was it Jonas Hofmann? I'm not entirely sure anymore who he brought down, but he sort of stuck his leg out to block the man. And I think it's in the category of you would give it in some games and you don't in others. I think it was the correct call by VAR not to intervene, because the referee clearly saw it and said it wasn't a penalty, and then it's not enough to turn over the call. But on the other hand, if you give it, there's also not enough there to say that wasn't a penalty. So like a 50-50 decision, and Dortmund were simply lucky there. And what was really interesting, Marco Rose said it like at the press conference, that the 2-1 that Dortmund scored was basically down to Erling Haaland breaking his back and Gladbach thinking Dortmund would just play the ball out of play, but they didn't. Jadon Sancho played in Achraf Hakimi, who then kept his calm and nutmegged Jan Sommer. I think that was, one of those key moments in very contested games where really just nuances can make a difference. And I think it showed there that Gladbach switched off. That was not great by them, but I think Marco Rose wasn't too mad at his players. But I think that made the big difference in the end, because apart from that one moment where Jadon Sancho hit the post with the curler, I don't remember too many other chances that Dortmund had in this game. If you do, please indulge.
Yeah, there was. I guess Dortmund looked better in the second half, but in terms of attacking output, it wasn't that much of an improvement.
No, they had more control, but in terms of clear-cut chances,
they had more control, yeah, but the output wasn't there.
Yeah.
It's just, as you said, like the Hakimi goal resulted from a situation. Holland was on the ground. Some Gladbach players were just turning off, and Hakimi was just running down the right side, hoping that he might receive the ball.
Yeah, and Jan Sommer even slipped a little.
Yeah. Also because the first touch, or the second or third touch by Hakimi was really bad, and the ball flipped a little bit away from him. And if Sommer doesn't slip, he might just catch the ball. So, a couple of things came together, all against Gladbach. Then you got as you said, Sancho hitting the woodwork, but it was not really a team effort. It was more like Sancho doing his thing, at least in terms of what he did inside the box. So, I guess more control, not so much, or not so many goal scoring opportunities, against Paris. If Dortmund can be not as dominant, but can control the match as well as they did in the second half against Gladbach, then that might be a big plus for Dortmund, going into, in that match. But still, I mean, at least you have to score once at least or so. And right now, I mean, also considering the Freiburg match, yes, Dortmund are more cautious, but I hope not so cautious that they basically lose all their attacking power. Because when I look at the team, what's really special about the team is just attacking quality.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. And I would say this, yes, Dortmund play a bit more risk averse and they are a bit more cautious and all that. But I will remind everyone that Freiburg also had a very good scoring opportunity with Niels Petersen, and Breel Embolo really should have scored.
Oh yeah, that's also right. Yeah.
You know, that was just a dire miss. I don't know. It was basically a tap in, and he's just completely mishit it. I don't know if the ball had a little bounce before.
I mean, he didn't really hit it, but still, it almost went in. So
yeah. So it's not like we can just applaud Dortmund's great defending, because there were lapses there. So Dortmund riding their luck a little bit there. And I think you can see the fatigue a little bit at the moment. In the end, I think both teams were pretty shot. Torgan Hazard had to go off with cramps. Benzebaini also had cramps. And I don't know if you watched Gladbach's game against Hoffenheim. I only saw like the last 10 minutes or so, when Hoffenheim equalized. But Gladbach were really, really tired then. And, they were again. So in the last 10 minutes, I wasn't really too concerned about Gladbach scoring the equalizer. I thought Dortmund would somehow just carry it over the time, and they did. So I think the one other notable thing is that there were, I think, 5 yellow cards in this game, 4 alone for players locking horns. I think Sancho and Benzebaini met, and then was it Stefan Leiner and Rafael Guerreiro. So yeah, there were a couple of brawls, but nothing too serious, I think. And then there were a couple of tactical fouls by Can and by Ginter and so on and so forth. So in the end, we had 10 bookings. So I think referee Sascha Stegemann, maybe the game got a little out of his hand, because I don't think it was that brutal that it warranted that many bookings. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, playing against Gladbach on FIFA, is what always strikes me, that like they're one of the most aggressive teams in the game. Just as a side note, I don't know, they always try to either tackle you or just straight out commit a foul. So I'm not surprised that in reality they do the same. No, just kidding. It was intense, yes. Wasn't really like a brutal match or something. Not I mean, the Zakaria injury happened because he clashed with his own goalkeeper. So then the one situation where Hofmann went down inside the penalty area wasn't a brutal foul, or was it more like, also Zagadou, he looked like he was twice as tall, twice as big as Hofmann, so might just be a stiff freeze because Zagadou was close to Hofmann breathing. I guess that's what happened, actually. That's what happened, yeah.
Sure.
We are, reviewed it and saw like no contact, was just Zagadou breathing heavy.
Yeah, you just exhaled. That's what happened.
Yeah, you just exhaled that Hofmann went down. Also, being a Dortmund fan, and knowing Hofmann quite well, because of his Dortmund days, I mean, he goes down pretty easily often enough, and he has done so for most of his career, actually. So, not that he dives a lot, but he's more like, yeah, there's a little shove and he's like down.
The center of gravity is just closer to him than to other people.
Yeah. He's a lightweight. That's the thing. Come on, that's the thing. It's just a weight thing. So yeah, that's also. I don't know. I mean, of course, referees have to judge a situation almost independently from like our situations in the past. Still, some referees also know that like player X, Y, and Z, these players go down easily.
Yeah, of course, they study that.
Yeah, they study that. Yeah, they watch also tape and know that like some players have the tendency to go down easily and like have the tendency to want to trick referees into making certain decisions. So that also plays a factor. Especially, I mean, Hofmann is not like no spring chicken anymore. He has a couple of Bundesliga seasons under his belt. So, it's nothing new, actually. But just on a side note, I don't think it was a brutal match. There were like a little bit scuffle here and there, but okay. Also, Favre running on onto the pitch.
That man.
Trying to hold back Sancho, because like in his mind it was like, all right, Sancho is about to do something stupid, and then we lose him due to a red card. We can't lose him. We have the real derby ahead of us, so we need Jadon Sancho, and like Favre is running onto the pitch, and we're like, all right, dude, no ballroom brawl right here in front of 55 television cameras.
Plus, I don't think Sancho would have won that against Spencer Baini, to be honest.
I guess, yeah. It's let's say a lightweight against at least a middleweight. So.
All right, maybe we should move back to the sport.
That's a sport.
Well, yeah, but I mean the sport, Konstantin.
The sport.
The sport. Anyway, so yeah, Dortmund are back in second place due to Leipzig dropping 2 points in Wolfsburg. And now we will all prepare for the Champions League. I'm obviously, as I previously said, a little bit less excited now that there is a game behind closed doors, and I assume we will have the same thing for the Revier Derby, which is obviously a big shame, but it's also understandable. If it's a global pandemic, you will want to limit the speed of the spread any way possible, and you want to protect the most vulnerable of your population, and I guess so it's very much warranted, but it's still annoying as it is. But nevertheless, I think we had a quite interesting first leg between PSG and Dortmund. In that game, Thomas Tuchel mirrored what Lucien Favre was doing. Obviously, I already talked with Ed about Tuchel's tactics a little bit, but I want to hear from your perspective. What do you think Dortmund should do, how they should behave, and what you expect Thomas Tuchel to do?
I guess he goes back to what he usually does with the PSG team, is a 4-2-2-2. Basically the Leipzig formation, more or less. I guess he will go back to what he usually uses. And as for Dortmund, I wouldn't change much. I would just try to be a little bit more precise in build-up is one thing. And
easier
also,
said than done. I believe that PSG will press quite well.
That's the thing. What I just want to say is also being a little bit quicker with decisions.
Again, easier said than done.
let me finish. I would act
easier
quicker,
said than done.
All right, Stefan. Now I'm about to mute you. You get a 2-minute penalty.
I don't think that's enough for you, but go on.
Oh, now we're throwing shade. All right. All right, you're getting a 5-minute penalty for insulting me. I will call Loss. He's now the new referee here.
He's asleep.
Well, so are some Bundesliga referees during the matches. I don't care. So it's just that sometimes, you watching the Gladbach match, sometimes Dortmund get into these to trouble in build up, because it's not like the other team is like doing a great job at setting up the pressing traps or whatever, or just using a high press. It's also Dortmund is sometimes so slow. Like they need an eternity until they get like the first pass or the second pass. And what you have to do is act quickly, a few quick passes before the high press really gets going and before they are really under pressure. And like if they would act a little bit quicker and would play quicker out of the back, sometimes it would help. Not always. Sometimes there are also cases where you can't really do anything unless you're like a madman like Zagadou and just start a dribble and go for it. Wouldn't do that against Paris usually, naturally and logically. But I guess there are some things Dortmund can still improve in order to battle a high press and not being then as pressured and inaccurate with the passing when less pressure applied. Because that's still one of the major concerns with this Dortmund team. Because it's just not... sometimes it doesn't look really safe. It looks really shaky. And that's not really what Favre... what's Favre's expectation is, and what his philosophy is completely different. He wants control, dominance, and also a lot of safe possession.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued. You sometimes see that the Dortmund attempt to play it safe, but then are forced back to play to Burki, and he just launches it forward, and then Dortmund automatically lose possession because unless Haaland somehow gets it or doesn't break his back. But that's really the exception to the rule. So you're right, and this is really not a way for Dortmund to calm their own play down. And yeah, I'm really intrigued about this because we've talked about this entire scenario beforehand, that if Dortmund allow themselves to be pressured too much and basically sit back too deep, then they are more often than not in trouble. So I hope that even though they carry the virtual 2-1 lead into the game, that they remain proactive. Otherwise, I think PSG will have a field day. That being said, I also don't believe that PSG will have a field day. How do you think Dortmund actually can hurt them, and how do you think how you should field the team to accomplish your goal to advance? Would you play Julian Brandt For example, if so, where, or would you play a front three of Sancho, Hazard, and Haaland? Since Hazard at least has proven that if not contributing with goals and assists, he at least works his butt off.
Yeah, I think one of the major flaws in this PSG team and one of the major vulnerabilities is that in many situations, Di Maria and Neymar and Mbappé, they're moving forward, and there's a really big space, a big chunk of real estate right behind them. And I think you have to use your quick attacking wingers and wing backs, so Hakimi and Guerrero, and also Sancho and Hazard. And since Hazard is a quicker, more explosive winger compared to Julian Brandt, I think that's why you play Hazard instead of Brandt. Because the middle of Witsel and Can, it's a good pairing. I wouldn't change it. So, and of course you can still integrate Julian Brandt in the team without playing him in center midfield. You can still, especially use him as a number 10 behind Haaland and Sancho. But, then Sancho would play more centrally. But against PSG, sometimes you need him close to the touchline. Then picking up these balls behind Di Maria, Neymar, and Mbappé. So that's why I think it's crucial to have 4 quick players or 2 quick players on each wing, which is I guess best way to beat Paris.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Sancho would, I guess, go up against Kimpembe and Juan Bernat. And Hazard would probably battle Marquinhos in defensive midfield, and then probably try to play off the shoulder of Thilo Kehrer and Thiago Silva. That's where I assume he will roam in these spaces. And maybe you will bring on Julian Brandt later on, or if you have to chase the game. That's at least my theory. I don't know what Lucien Favre is thinking. What I have not mentioned on the interview with Ed, obviously, because we recorded that one on Friday. Since then, the Paris game against Strasbourg was cancelled entirely, completely postponed due to the coronavirus. And I don't know if that's due to the coronavirus as well, but at least today on Monday, Kylian Mbappé did not train. He missed training because of a sore throat. So there's that. And I think Edison Cavani also missed training because of a personal matter, but I'm not entirely sure that he's out for the game. But just so you know, I guess we'll have more information in the coming days. And that's all I will have to say before we do our predictions. Konstantin, after the PSG, after the first leg, you predicted that Dortmund will not prevail against PSG. How is your prediction now? Do you think the empty stands changed something?
Yeah, I guess it changes something because when I said that that Paris would, in my opinion at least, will go through, I pictured something of a situation: Dortmund playing at Paris, fans against them. Just one of these Champions League away matches where a team like Dortmund can really stumble and fall to some extent. So, but it has changed. The dynamics of the match have changed, and I think Dortmund can edge out, or I hope and think Dortmund can edge out a 1-1 or something, and so going through. Won't be pretty, but I guess there's a possibility that Dortmund can edge out 1-1 and so and go through. Of course, the one Paris away goal during the first leg doesn't help at all, but that, of course, that's Captain Obvious.
Yeah, obviously, but I do expect Dortmund to score in this game. Mats Hummels said for all he cares, Dortmund can lose 6-7. I don't think it's going to be that high, but I do believe Dortmund will go through on away goals, to be perfectly honest. I think it's going to be the shootout that I assumed would happen in the first leg. That these games tend to become a little crazier in the second leg, I always feel. So I'm predicting a 3-2 loss for Dortmund, but again, I think they will go through. So, yeah. Without any further ado, then here is our interview with Ed from PSG Talk. All right, I'm here again with Ed from PSG Talk. Listeners already had the pleasure of hearing from him ahead of the first leg against PSG. Now the second leg is upon us, and we're all very excited for it. Ed, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Stefan, for having me back. It's a pleasure.
So your team lost the first game. We both predicted a shootout, but that did not quite materialize. However, it was a very interesting game, with Thomas Tuchel mirroring the formation that Lucien Favre put out there, and in the end, 2 goals of Erling Haaland decided the match. Neymar got a goal for PSG, which can be very vital. So before we dive into the upcoming game, what are your top line reactions to the first leg from the PSG perspective?
Yeah, my initial thought was Dortmund has unbelievable speed, even more so than I thought going into the match. When you see the way that they were able to sprint upfield and just run past defenders, you're just really left in awe. I thought that tactically in that first half, both sides were very similar in what they were trying to do, kind of feeling each other out. Dortmund, by far the better team, created more chances. And it just felt like throughout that entire game, PSG was really just holding on for dear life. I didn't love the way that PSG played very compact through the middle. I didn't love that Tuchel completely changed the formation. The 3-4-2-1 wasn't something that PSG has really played at all season. So to change it was pretty shocking. I thought going with Mbappe as a striker was an interesting decision, leaving Mauro Icardi, even Edinson Cavani on the bench with no real number 9 up front. And I think that Tuchel really just went into that match thinking, let's just, at best, maybe we can get a draw. Let's keep it close. Dortmund's really good at home. Let's just try to get out of here without too much damage being done, and leave it up to the Parc des Princes, the return leg, to see what we can get out of it. So that was kind of my overall thoughts on everything that went down.
Yeah, I think you're very spot on here. It really looked like Tuchel was more trying to not lose than to win this game, which makes sense in the Champions League. I mean, it's only the first game, and you have to be mindful of that. What really struck me is that Neymar and Mbappe didn't track back as much as you would like them to do on a Champions League level. I think in the league you can afford them to play with a bit more freedom, but in Neymar's case, I think he was also maybe not up to his best physical shape because he was rested or protected or whatever it was. What are the prospects of him in the second leg playing at a higher level and with more intensity? Or is he just a player that doesn't defend because he is Neymar and he doesn't give a crap?
A little bit of both. I will say, so he had the rib injury and it came out that he was protected. He wanted to play, he pushed to play before the first leg, and given his injury history, PSG executives and those in charge said, we're not going to let you play. Now that everything has happened, he was suspended for one game, but he's played in every game after the result against Dortmund. And he's played really well. And on Twitter, in the most recent game, there was a clip where I shared Neymar tracked back and made a diving block to block a cross, where he tracked back. He has it in him, and he's been praised, and Mbappe has praised him earlier in the season for tracking back. So it's something that he is capable of doing if he's up for it. And I think I think against Dortmund, if you can't get up for this match, then I just don't think you have it in him, if he can't do it. So, hopefully he turns up and tracks back, because I think the formation is going to change a lot. You're going to see more wide play, and you're going to see more attacking play from PSG, because quite frankly, they need to score goals. But they also need to track back and stop Dortmund from scoring, obviously. So I think you're going to see Neymar's going to be pretty tired at the end of this match. I think we're going to get everything. We're going to get all 222 euros that we spent for him. We're going to get it out of him in this match for sure.
Yeah, the thing is, PSG obviously just needs a 2-0 win. I think that's their ideal result.
Yeah.
3-1 or 4-2 or whatever is probably a bit harder to achieve, but obviously not impossible for this team at any given day. That being said, very late in the game, there were two incidents that I think will have a massive influence on the return leg. The first one was obviously Thomas Meunier getting booked, or actually that was the second one, but the more minor impact, I would say. How is his absence going to impact PSG, and who will replace him, and how good is that player?
Absolutely. So with Meunier, what's shocking is after the game, he claimed that he had no idea that one yellow card would suspend him for the return leg, which is it's almost a fireable offense. Just the fact that he had no idea. No one told him, like, hey, you can't get a yellow card. So we'll set that aside. That is beyond reason. I have no comprehension of how that could happen in professional football. But look, he started in the game. He's, the starting right back. I don't rate him as highly as maybe some other people do. I think he's a fine right back. He plays for Belgium, which is one of the best international teams. So he clearly has quality. And his absence is going to be missed for the simple fact that Colin Dagba is another right back that we have in the team, but he's injured. And so now you're without two right backs. So now you're having to slot over Thilo Kehrer, who's more of a center back, but he can play right back. But he's been injured a lot this season. He hasn't had a lot of playing time. And he had a really bad mistake against Manchester United last year in the Champions League. So you start to wonder, can he really step up when the bright lights are on? So that's a real concern for PSG. And with him slotting over at right back, if Thiago Silva is not able to play, then Marquinhos may have to come back and play center back. So Tuchel's having to shuffle players around because, Meunier is out and injuries. And so Tuchel is not going to be able to go with the players that I think he would hope to be able to go with.
So the biggest treat of the first leg, to me at least, was really the battle in midfield between Gueye, Verratti, and Witsel and Can on either side respectively. I think Axel Witsel after the game said that Dortmund won this particular battle against the two other players. But that being said, I think that Verratti was the best of all four of them, easily. Just the way he prevented Can from a scoring chance in the box, just stealing the ball and poking it away in the last second. I think half the stadium was shouting for a penalty, but it was just an amazing defensive move. I think he was the best player, period, minus maybe Erling Haaland, who just on the merit of scoring outrageous goals. But otherwise, he is sort of the heart and soul of this team in midfield. And he will now be out because he complained a little bit too loud in the referee's face, which, if Meunier was a fireable offense, this probably is too.
Yeah.
Just so stupid, so unprofessional, and put such a burden on his team. So how is Thomas Tuchel? You already said he will have to shuffle around. How is Thomas Tuchel going to solve that? Because Gueye, for all intents and purposes, had a terrible game. And, if there were two Verrattis, PSG would have probably won 4-0. But, with Gueye and someone not as exceptional as Verratti, I think PSG are going to struggle. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Idrissa Gueye, we have to remember he came from Everton, not a team that's playing on the top level of European football. And so I think going into the atmosphere at Dortmund really impacted him. I think he's a really good quality player. We saw that at home in the first game of the group stage against Real Madrid, which PSG won 3-0. He had a great performance. I mean, unbelievable. He had just come in recently. He joined last summer. I think that Tuchel will give him another opportunity, banking on the fact of being at home, and maybe that little extra confidence will bring that type of performance out of him that we saw against Real Madrid. If Thiago Silva can't play and Marquinhos has to play center back, that obviously opens up a place in the midfield. Leandro Paredes, he played against Lyon in the Coupe de France semifinals. So he's a player that I think could play there. I also think 17-year-old Tanguy Kouassi would be my pick, but he hasn't played. He didn't play against Lyon, which I think is a good indicator that he won't likely play against Dortmund. So I think Idrissa Gueye and Leandro Paredes could be the midfield pairing. However, if Thiago Silva can play, then I think it's going to be Marquinhos and Gueye as your midfield pairing.
Yeah, interesting. So there will be a surprise in store, and you never know with Thomas Tuchel because he is famous for overthinking high-profile games and coming up with tactical tweaks that trying to basically double bluff Lucien Favre, who is not even concerned with whatever PSG are doing. So, or I think someone said quintuple bluffer, so I had to laugh. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting game, for sure. How different do you expect PSG to play? You've already mentioned that they were without Icardi and Cavani. Do you think both will feature, or at least one of them? And if so, who? And how will that change? Because you've said it before, PSG hardly played through the wings in the first leg. Something you should exploit against Dortmund, if you ask me. If you have Neymar and his dribble skills, you want him to go one-on-one against Piszczek or Zagadou or whoever on the wings. So please indulge us with your theory of the attacking tweaks and the different shape that PSG will probably apply.
I mean, I would love obviously Neymar on the wing and Mbappe up front. Basically the 4-4-2 that they had been going with Icardi and Mbappe up front and Angel Di Maria and Neymar on the wings up front. However, Icardi has not played really at all. He's been kind of left on the bench, and it's a curious decision from Tuchel because he's been so good this season, and Edinson Cavani has been the one that has been playing. Cavani recently scored his 200th goal for PSG. He made his 300th appearance, and so I don't know what to make of it because Cavani is not really scoring the goals with this playing time. He's missing a lot of chances, and it's kind of his MO for his career. He scored a lot of goals, but I think if he finished a lot of his other chances, he would be one of the best strikers ever in the history of the game. He just misses way too many chances. And for me, Icardi would be the ideal player to play up front. With all that being said, I have no idea what Tuchel is thinking at all in this match. I would go with what you have done for a large part of the season, again, which is Neymar, Mbappe, Icardi, and Angel Di Maria. But he may play Cavani up front and Mbappe and Neymar on the wing and play three midfielders. You said it yourself. I mean, Tuchel is a classic overthinker. And the fact that we as fans don't really have a good grasp of what kind of formation and who is going to play is absolutely terrifying when you're going into a match of this magnitude. You need stability. You like to know which players are going to be expected to play, and you would hope that those players know where they're going to play. Tuchel said we may not know until Wednesday morning if Thiago Silva can play, which means that Marquinhos doesn't know if he's going to be a midfielder or a center back that day. I don't know how you can go into a game with that sort of uncertainty and expect to pull off a win against a high-quality side like Dortmund. It's enough to pull your hair out, to be quite honest with you.
So, in the past, as you've mentioned, PSG often have played in the league at least, with a 4-2-2-2 formation. I guess it has more width than it says on the initial team sheet, but it just suggests that, there's a lot of offense and, a lot of free roaming players in the end. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I will just say this, it makes a big deal and a big difference. It is a big deal and makes a big difference on the international stage in such a high profile game, whether you have routine and automatism, as I like to say, within your squad and whether players are used to their positions. And I think during Tuchel's tenure in Dortmund, that has cost him a couple of games here and there, that he just put players so out of position that they were not used to the distances in relation to other players. So there were a couple tactical errors, that led to individual tactical errors, and that led to mistakes and to goals. And so for Dortmund, that is, I guess, a big hope that PSG will not be comfortable in the formation they play. I think that was a factor in the first leg as well, even though it was offset by the more stability it brought, I would say. So, we'll see, really. That's all I have to say. I'm interested to see how Thilo Kehrer will fare. He has not only made a mistake against Manchester United in the Champions League, but he also has, I think, 2 or 3 mistakes in his derby career against Dortmund when he was still a player for Schalke.
Yeah.
So I will say this: he doesn't only have a history of shitting the bed on the Champions League, but also against Dortmund. So if these 2 things combine, I don't know if that's positive for you. But
it's probably
there's always hope that since then that he is matured and developed into a better player.
The one thing I will say that maybe could bail out Kehrer if he's, shitting the bed, as you said, is that Neymar has played in matches, and he seems to be in great form. Mbappe, I don't know if you saw his goal against Lyon where he just dribbled from the halfway line all the way and scored. But those 2 players are in incredible form right now. They seem to be match fit. And I think those 2 players could track back in a game like this to help out Kehrer and maybe Juan Bernat, former Bayern Munich man, on the left side if he starts. So I think getting some help from those attackers could help out the defense.
Yeah, I think this is for PSG the big difference maker, really. I mean, it's really the most obvious thing to say, but especially on such a high level, where there are not a lot of tactical errors, you just need the individual skill and dribble through people. Sometimes I think the goal that PSG scored, with Mbappe just taking the ball and running through everyone, was exactly the best example and underscores my point. And, we'll really see in what kind of form they are, because Dortmund, at least according to who scored and to my own eye observation, are very prone to skillful players and especially that kind of football. So, this is obviously a big concern. Dortmund, on the other hand, will hope that Jadon Sancho will show up a bit better than he did in the first game. If Dortmund played well, then, overall, then I think for Jadon Sancho's standards, he had a relatively poor game. So Dortmund themselves can improve in the attacking department, especially if Julian Brandt has a good game. So there is potential for the shootout that we predicted in the first game, just based on the fact that there will arguably be more attacking prowess on both sides.
I would agree with that. I think PSG, they're a team that if they go down early, you're going to see them just capitulate. They are not a team that can go down early in a game like this and battle back. If they go down early, the fans are going to start getting nervous. You're going to see a hostile atmosphere inside the stadium. It could get ugly. This team needs to come out. They've used up all of their goodwill with the fans. It's put up or shut up time, essentially. If they lose this, these players, I don't know if there's going to be any wild birthday parties planned anytime soon. That's for sure.
Yeah, that was going to be my sort of final question. We still have to talk about the potential situation that there are no fans in the game due to the coronavirus. Yeah. But if there are, I think Hans-Joachim Watzke, after the first leg, said right away, we know that PSG have a reputation of collapsing in the round of 16, and Dortmund are certainly aware of it and try to gain an advantage that way. So really your take on the potential mental collapse of PSG and how the fans will either help or on the other hand make matters worse for this team. And
yeah, whether there's fans or not in the stadium, this PSG team is comprised of some of the most mentally weak players that we've ever seen in the history of the game. And the evidence is clear just from the last few years in the Champions League, and how they will go up 4-0 against Barcelona and lose 6-1, or how they'll go up, 2-1 against Manchester United and then lose 3-1. I mean, this team cannot take a lead and hold on to it and advance. Something always happens, whether it's a handball or a back pass that goes awry. They are just a mentally weak team, and until they actually show it, that's what they're going to be called, bodlers or whatever phrase you want to say. I mean, they have to go out and prove it, and that's what's on the line Wednesday. For a lot of these guys, especially Neymar, his reputation is on the line. He's 28 years old. If he goes out like this, that's his reputation, and I don't know how he's going to reverse that. He can go crawling back to Barcelona, and maybe Messi can rescue him, but if he came here to PSG to do it on his own, and this is his opportunity. I think the fans will show up in an amazing way, and they will give this team such a boost to start. But like I said, if they go down early, it's not gonna be good. After the loss to Dortmund, some of the ultras held up banners that basically told Neymar and Mbappe to grow a pair, and that the fans are just sick of these catastrophic losses in the Champions League. And so I think the fans are going to show up because that's what they do. And I'm going to be supporting them. But if things start to go bad, you're going to see it on Twitter. You're going to see it in the stands.
Will be out.
Yeah, I mean, this team has used up all of their goodwill. Like I said, they have no margin of error. All the excuses are gone. Everybody, Neymar and Mbappe are healthy. You need to go out there and get the job done. It's put up or shut up time. And if they don't get it done, it's going to be a long summer.
Yeah. Referencing to that banner Ultras held up, was that a reference to Mbappe and Neymar leaving the pitch early after the game in Dortmund, because you've seen the entire team basically go to the away section and applaud the fans, and then Neymar and Mbappe both swapped jerseys with Dortmund players and went straight to the locker room. That's obviously not a good signal to send at all, and will just widen the rift, I assume. So was that in reference, or was it just like in general?
I think it was just in general, but I don't think it helped. A lot of the fans still don't appreciate what Neymar did last summer, even though he's been great and very professional throughout the season. They just won't forgive him for trying to force a transfer. So, that decision, not a good look. The fans paid a lot of money. They sang, they cheered, they did everything they could to get the win. You clap them and you appreciate their effort, just like they, for 90 minutes, appreciated yours. And so I think that was a bad look. And then it creates a rift, and both of them have contract extensions, and neither one of them have signed them yet. And so you're setting up, if they lose on Wednesday, you're setting up a very contentious negotiation period and transfer window this summer.
Yeah, this is going to be my next question, and probably the final question. Yeah. Thomas Tuchel is maybe on the hot seat. Question
100%.
If this really goes wrong for PSG, especially if they collapse, say they lead 2-0 or 3-0 even, and then Dortmund score 2 goals and advance in a very dramatic way. So just the worst case scenario for PSG, where they have everything in their hand and then give it away again. Is Thomas Tuchel going to be fired? And if so, will there be a replacement you already have in mind? Are there already rumors? Are the vultures already circling around him, or will he be fired like as a guarantee, and then PSG will just see how they reassess everything?
Yeah, I think it's 100% Tuchel is coaching for his job on Wednesday, and if he loses, he's gone. And I don't think there's anyone who could convince me otherwise. Leonardo is the sporting director. He didn't bring in Tuchel. He's not his guy. Tuchel's made some questionable decisions tactically, just managing some of the players. And so I think Tuchel will want to bring in his own guy. We know that Leonardo has an appreciation for Italian football. Allegri is out there. I think that's a name that will definitely bubble up.
Pochettino is available.
Yeah, Pochettino is another former PSG player. I think he'll get a look. And for Tuchel, I mean, I saw a report that Manchester United, they still back their manager, but if there's a change, I think they have Tuchel on their short list. And Bayern Munich is a team, I think, that also rates Tuchel highly. So you could be seeing him a lot more.
This is the main reason why I asked the question, because right now, I don't know if you know this, but Hansi Flick, the interim coach, basically has been offered a pen after the, Bayern Munich always have a banquet after Champions League away days, and the chairman Karl-Heinz Rummenigge gave his interim coach a pen and said, you can sign a contract or you can sign papers with this, hint, hint, hint.
Yeah.
So I would appreciate the drama when Thomas Tuchel is available on the market and how that, changes things at Bayern Munich and whether we will see Thomas Tuchel go to the Bavarians because he was on their wish list for a very long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be quite a dramatic summer in that case. So Dortmund could fuel the situation.
But here's sorry to cut you off. Tuchel's a fine manager. He's fine. What has he actually won in his career?
The German Cup in 2017.
But that's it, right? Has he? I just don't know if he's the caliber manager for a PSG or a Bayern Munich or Manchester United. He doesn't have the winning pedigree. And so if he can get it done on Wednesday, maybe he'll be able to stick around for another year. But
I would say this, if he's on the hot seat in the round of 16, I don't think the quarterfinal will change much.
Depending on who the matchup is. I mean, if you go up against Liverpool, he can maybe make a case like, hey, this team is one of the best ever assembled. But if he goes in and loses to like maybe Napoli or somebody like that, then I think he could still be fired in the quarterfinals. But he's got it all to do next week. I mean, think about the pressure in that, going into a game knowing that if you lose, you're probably going to lose your job. It's
good to know for Dortmund fans because we all know Thomas Tuchel under pressure sometimes makes weird calls. Anyway, I think that should close this discussion. Before I let you go, please give us your prediction for this game.
So I think it's going to be a similar scoreline, 2-1 to PSG this time, which I believe would send it into extra time.
Yeah,
and I'm going to leave it up in the air. I think this game's going into extra time, and I have no idea.
This is not how predictions work here on the Yellowwallpod. You either predict how this entire thing is going to end, or you
okay. Here, all right.
It's put up or shut up time. You said it yourself.
All right, here we go. It's going to be 2-1. We're going to go to extra time. This is going to penalty kicks, and I'm going to be in the hospital through a heart attack, but I'm going to be there as PSG win the penalty kick shootout and advance to the quarterfinals. So that's my prediction.
Okay, see, this is what it takes to get something out of you here. Anyway, thank you for coming on. The stage is yours. Please tell our listeners how to view or read or listen to your content.
Absolutely. So psgtalk.com. We have all of our content there. You can find our podcast. Our flagship is the PSG Talking Show, which Stefan was gracious to join us on before this show. And you can find me on Twitter at PSG Talk.
Thank you very much, and back to the show. All right, we are back. Once again with me here is Konstantin Eckner. Konstantin, before we leave, please tell our listeners how to get in touch with you if they also want to share half a bottle of wine with you.
Sure. Why not? We do that digitally, virtually. So just go on Twitter. My handle is cc_ECKNER. Get in touch with me there. Follow me. Check out the stuff I share, my own rating and other things, my own videos from my YouTube channel, and everything else that's, related to the sport of football, and maybe other things I also do.
Yes.
So
Konstantin Eckner's videos are uploaded on Red Wine Tube. Anyway, you can find me at Stefan Butzko on Twitter. No alcohol there, even though it's sometimes you
boring.
think,
Boring.
I know. But if you want to get in touch with all of us, please do that at Yellowwallpod on Facebook or Twitter, or shoot us an email at yellowwallpod@gmail.com. And if you want to check out our written content, please go to theyellowwall.net, where you can also find all the means to subscribe to this podcast via YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, etc. And if you, like Vedran, want to sponsor an episode, please go to patreon.com/theyellowwall and that's all for now for, well, not this week, but until Thursday. Then we will talk about the Geisterspiel that is going to be the Revier Derby. Fun. So anyway, as always, everyone out there, thank you for listening and goodbye.
Vedran.